Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit excited about this one. Camping with one of my favourite YouTubers of all time, which also means I've finally got my hands on the bit of camping gear that I've longed for the longest time. I'll introduce you to who I'm camping with in a minute, but the plan was to camp in this woodland, but we're a little bit dubious of some of the deadfall, so we're going to avoid the widowmakers and camp just on the outside of the woodland. So a lot of you already might know Sandy, aka the Wiltshire Man.
The Wiltshire Man. Jack Law Knives as well. Have I preempted you there?
Don't need me after all. This is why Sandy's been doing YouTube a lot longer than I have.
I have, yeah. But you're a lot more successful than me though, Paul.
I wouldn't say that, mate. So we've got a nice little bit of flat grass here, just on the outskirts of the woodland. We're not expecting any rain, but I'm going to get set up now anyway. I only used this tent once before. Last time was with the hot stove. I haven't brought that with me this time. You'd think that these tents were dead easy to put up. It's just one pole in the middle. Can be a faff getting it pitched just how you want it. It is best to make sure that the door's shut though. If you tension everything up when the door's open, you find that you can't shut it, so you have to undo everything. If it's not custard on the lens, it's mud. I need to connect the inner again. Fastens on with these little hooks. So when I've packed it away, these just must pop out. So last time I had the hot tent in here, so you have to buy a special heat-proof little hole that goes there, but none of that tonight. It's going to get down to about 2 degrees tonight. Sleeping bag should be warm enough, and yeah, worst comes to worst, we're going to go in the woods and have a little fire to sit around in a bit. They just hook into those loops. I'm quite happy with that. Starting to have a few regrets though, getting a bit of stove envy. It's going to be toasty warm in there tonight. Just going to have to wrap myself up in the sleeping bag. I'm looking forward to showing you these in a bit. I'm like a dog with 2 dicks. Christmas has definitely come early. It's a tiny bit muddy underneath, so I'm going to stick this mylar underneath me, my tent inner. It's not going to help with the insulation, I hope, but keep the bottom a bit cleaner. I haven't used this sleeping pad for ages. It's in my Hyperlight from Xbed. The amount of gear that I'm finding now, I've got my shelf organised. Mixes things up a bit though. Sleeping bag same. It's been ages since I've used this. Alpkit Sky High 700. Cheap Trekology pillow. That's the bed, pretty much set up. That sunset's going to be awesome, look. There isn't much light left now. I'm just going to rig a tarp up here just so if it does rain a little bit I can cook. So the wood stove that I've got I can't really use inside my tent, whereas if I'd bought the dedicated hot tent stove, wouldn't have mattered what the weather was like, I could have just cooked inside. It's only a little one, DD Superlight Tarp S. Not perfect this, but give me a little bit of cover if the rain comes.
You got a stick?
That ain't perfect, but I got myself a bit of shelter now, look. So I can sit my chair down there and get me little wood stove going.
Bet you wish you bought your stove, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Right, let's get this fire going. Come on. This is just one of them little makeup pad things, and it's been soaked in wax, allowed to dry. That should start the fire. Raining, so I'm glad I put this tarp up. Can't beat a bushcraft telly, can you? Time to get dinner on the go. Bit of ribeye. Have a couple of fried eggs with it. So I've brought them in the little Nalgene bottle again. Really handy way of carrying eggs. So I had somebody comment on one of my recent videos where I'm going on about how good the jet boil skillet is. And they suggested that if you use some sort of parchment paper in a pan, any pan, then it makes it non-stick and you've got no cleaning up to do. So I gave it a bash at home and couldn't believe it, it really works. So I'm going to show you that today. So this is just some parchment or greaseproof paper, whatever you call it. I'll rip off the excess a little bit. Put a little bit of oil on the steak. This one's for you, Rick. I know you like a bit of seasoning. Right, get that steak. What we'll do, get the pan a bit hotter first, stick that on there and just drop that in there like that. In fact, we'll put it that way around because I'm downhill a little bit. Don't want any oil running off onto the pan. Smidgen more oil. Look at that. That little paper trick, it's genius. Not a mark on the pan. I'll have a search back in my comments and I will put your name on the screen, but thank you so much for that. Someone else has given you the tips this week. So if you need to breathe a little bit of life into your stove, this little inflator is brilliant. Right, get this steak served up. I'm just going to stick my eggs on with all that flavour. Come on. Come on. There we go. 2 eggs. And my plate's nothing fancy, it's just an ultra thin cutting board. Will do a job. Oh, happy days. suppose the one winner of the jet boil though is that I have my little spatula. But that egg is not sticking. Look at that. Why did I not know about this before? That seasoning's a winner. Wondering if I can flip it. Unorthodox, but it's worked. Look at that. Every day is a school day. We're going to finish this off and have a natter with Sandy. That's Sandy's set up. Oh, you can just feel the difference in the temperature in here. I am so regretting not bringing my stove. That lantern's better than mine as well, look. It's been a really good evening. Had a very good chatter with Sandy. We've put the world to rights. Taught YouTube, knife making. I'll show you the 2 knives I've got in the morning. Not really had a chance to play with them today because it got dark a little bit too quick, so you don't be playing with knives when it's dark. I'm just having a chill and a warm up. Gives off a little bit of heat, enough to warm your hands up. You just feel it a little bit. But just having a little fire to look at, it's quite comforting. Sandy's all tucked up in his hot tent. Glad I strung this tarp up though. It's rained, not a lot, but just a few bits of rainfall every now and again, and it's kept the fire in, kept me dry while I was cooking my tea. Definitely worth that little bit of effort. Feeling really lucky to be sat out in the cold around the campfire at the moment, with everything else going off in the world at the moment, especially with that nutter over in Russia. Got some nice bacon to put on there in the morning. Have another 10 minutes watching those flames. Quick beer. Cheers. And then I might head inside the tent. It's not as cold as I thought it was going to be. Still got a fleece on, I'll be taking that off before I go to sleep. The sleeping bag, still as good as the day I got it. Yeah, so I'm going to be plenty warm enough in here tonight. This tent still impresses me. The amount of room you get in it is awesome. If you didn't have this in here, you could sleep half a dozen people in it. Plenty high enough, and you can fit a hot tent stove in as well for about 125 quid, something like that. I don't think I'd take it up in the hills though, but Yeah, for this kind of lowland or woodland camping, I really like it. Right, I think it's time to get my head down, have a look at these things in the morning, and I've got some nice bacon to cook up. So this is my Jack Law Bushcraft Classic. It is gorgeous. It's got stabilised birch handles, red G10 liners, mosaic pins made with 01 tool steel. This has been handmade. Sandy's been slaving over this. He does all the leather work himself as well, look. One of the best knife makers in the country now. It does seem too pretty to be battening, but it is a tool. That's what Sandy's designed and made these for. So it's going to be used as is intended. They are. Butter. Even gone through a knot. A little bit of birch bark in there as well. Always helps things along.
Just doing this breakfast, and he just showed me one of his subscribers shared with him, and it's about using bacon parchment. So basically you put the bacon parchment in the pan, it doesn't catch on fire or anything then?
No. Well, I'm assuming you can burn it, but I'm not putting it directly in the flame.
No, no. Oh, that's interesting.
Lucky fingers. So you keep everything on the paper and off the pan, and then you don't have any sticking. This is good bacon, this. So while that bacon's cooking, Sandy, you can explain this one to us.
Right, this one, neck knife, so it's got the two holes there to dangle like that. Just really a general purpose cutting tool was my initial sort of thought. It started many years ago when someone said, you've got a belt knife, how about making a neck knife? So I put my mind to it and came up with this, which has got the typical sort of Jack Law shape to it, so you can tell from the shape that it's got my sort of signature, also the logo of course. But it's just a very ergonomic little knife. You can hold it, if you're skinning game, you can hold it up like that and keep your fingers safe from the blade, but you can guide the blade and you can guide the depth so it's not too long for cutting into deer processing, etc. You could process a deer with that quite easily, but for most of us, we're not going to be processing deer. Most of us are going to use it for just general little cutting tasks, cutting cordage, fire prep. It's great for fire prep and scraping because you can choke
birch
on
bark and stuff
on the blade and you can scrape like that. And it's just a lovely little knife. This one's got stabilised mass of birch
look at
and
close up.
quad mosaic pins. and red G10 liners. G10 is very stable, it's sort of glass reinforced sort of resin, isn't it? And GRP, so it should in theory last 100 years.
Let's have a look at the sheath.
The sheath's been wet formed. There's a bit of that's the product that I use for finishing the sheath. I use something called golden mink oil, and that's what that is there. But the sheath's been wet formed to this knife, so the knife will fit in, and it's got the shoulders there, and it just fits in nicely.
Lovely. It's too nice. It's too nice to cook with.
No, it's designed to be used.
Yeah, I'll be using it. You mark my words.
So yeah, Paul's just turning his bacon over. You can see it's
still charring it as well.
It's charring it, and it's non-stick, totally non-stick.
So if you have a look, I'll show you in a second. Don't want to get any oil on the pan, but if you lift the paper up, look, there's nothing there.
Clean. Yeah. That's a good tip, that, Paul.
This has made my trip, this tip. It's starting to look very nice. Oh, another bonus. Sandy's kindly invited me to have a look around his workshop where he makes these. So if you stick around, you'll get to see where these are made. I ain't got any brown sauce. Amateur. Plenty of bacon though. Bang on. So I've been following Sandy's channel since long before I started making YouTube videos. A lot of you will already know Wiltshire Man. And he's one of about half a dozen YouTubers that I've wanted to go camping with for such a long time. Yeah, so coming down here I was a bit like a 7-year-old waiting to see Spider-Man. Yeah, Wiltshire Man, I reckon he should join the Avengers. So if you've been with the channel a long time, you'll know that I started off doing bushcraft stoves and knives and all that kind of stuff. And the jacklaw knife has been probably the bit of camping gear that I've longed for the longest amount of time. We'll get this stuff packed up and then we're going to have a look around Sandy's workshop and see how the knives are made. Tent did a great job as usual, and I'm glad I strung that little tarp up. Need to clean that mess up though. Although Sandy's got permission for us to camp here, leave no traces. Yeah, still the golden rule. Whoa! So we made it back to Sandy's workshop. Got packed up, left no trace as always. Sandy's going to give us a look round and I'll show you some of the processes and how he makes his knives.
I've got some sheaves in the process of making, so these are the blanks that I've cut out in the rough, and I can easily make them up into finished sheaves. And that's how they start out, like that.
Brilliant.
Well, you're in my heat treatment room, Paul. I wanted the light subdued in this area because it helps you to see the incandescent colours of the heat treat. This is the engineering part, if you like. So I've just got a bank of drills set up for various speeds. So this is my main grinder for doing all the metal work. And the good thing with this grinder is that it tilts, so I can have it that way or the other way. This is a wasp. I've yet to put the grind on it, but you can see the original temper colours. So that's the oxidational colours, sort of dark brown, golden brown, and that's the colour of the metal, so you can see what it's like. So in the press, I've got a stamp.
It's your logo, is it?
That's the logo.
That goes on all your leather work and on there.
No, that's just for the steel.
Okay.
And that the leather work one I'll show you. So that's the leather work one, and that's the one above is the steel one.
Oh.
That, I use that at the very end of the processes for when I'm shoe shining and finishing the actual handles. This is a metal working bandsaw, but yeah, it's a good machine. I've cut all my knives out almost from the get-go. I bought this with one of the first machines that I bought. So in here, just turn the light on for you. I left a little section over here, Paul, so you can appreciate how dusty and dirty it gets. But yeah, it gets.
Is that from one day's worth?
No, that's probably 3 or 4 days worth.
Okay.
There. I left that just to let you see how it builds up. I got dust extraction a few years ago, and that gets a good percentage of the dust. And I wear
respirator thing.
I mean, this wasn't cheap.
Like a Martian.
3M, yeah. But what price do you put on your health?
Yeah.
You know, so to get that brand new now is nearly £1,000, 800 quid or something like that. So you've got to be serious about your health. But these two grinders are made by Alistair from Down in Engineering. I added this one to it a couple of years later, and then I think about 3 years ago I added the grinder out there. A disc sander, so it's very good for flattening things off. You don't get things truly flat with it, but it takes it part of the way. So there's your classic, and there's your Woodlaw, and handle sizes. You know, so I got a lot of inspiration from Alan Wood. Alan Wood's a fantastic knife maker, and the Ramir's Woodlaw knife's a lovely knife. And I was saying to Paul earlier on our camp, I think the logo and the way that Ray's designed the logo, I think it's just stunning. It's just a lovely logo. So yeah, I can build a nice knife, but I can't. I've got to say, I think Ray's logo is far better than mine. But yeah, that was. I
don't know. That's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. But that knife was given to me by a customer, and he bought one of my knives. He said, "Would you accept a gift?" I was flabbergasted because, you know, it's a fairly basic knife. There's no liners. There's no tapered tine to it. There's a bit of a wonky drilled hole there. And the wood's not stabilised, but it would easily fetch £1,000, if not £1,500. You know, if someone wanted it, you could sell it for that money quite easily. So that's basically my humble workshop, Paul. And as I say, the wife calls it the shed. He's in the shed.
It's a shed.
The phone rings. Where's Sandy? He's in the shed.
Finally back in sunny Sheffield. Massive thanks to Sandy for inviting me into the world of Wiltshireman and Jacklaw knives. Chuffed to bits with these, mate, so thanks again. I'll pop links in the description below to both the Wiltshireman and the Jacklaw YouTube channels. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, but that's it for this one. I'll see you next time.